Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and today we'll be taking a look at one of Arctic's slightly smaller coolers. This is the Freezer 7X, a multi-CPU compatible cooler that won't break the bank. But is it any good? Let's find out after this. Okay, so today's video we'll be taking a look at a tiny cooler from Arctic. This is the Freezer 7X, multi-CPU compatible, so this works with Intel and AMD platforms from the 1200 series from Intel right down to kind of like 775, and on the AMD side of things, pretty much everything FM1 upwards up to AM4, and potentially AM5, who knows? Well, not me, that's for sure. Anyway, moving on, so this is the cooler. At the moment in the UK, you can actually pick this up from novatech.co.uk for a ridiculously inexpensive $14.99, which I think is actually a fantastic price. I'm not sure if it's on special offer. It seems to be at that price for a little while now, so certainly if you're interested and you're in the UK, give Novatech a shout and see if they've got them still in stock. If not, we'll put some affiliated links in the video description for Amazon. They are a little bit more expensive on Amazon. That seems to be a slightly reoccurring thing at the moment on Amazon, so yeah, buyer beware, do your research, do shop around. But certainly for £15, this actually seems like a pretty good value. Now, obviously we did review recently the Snowman cooler, which cost kind of roughly the same sort of money. That was a 120mm cooler. This is a 92mm cooler. Arguably, this is a better quality. Anyone who's bought Arctic products before will know the build quality, the engineering, the packaging, everything is far, far superior. Also, availability of these, pretty decent also. You don't have to wait a couple of weeks when it's going to be shipped from China. These are available, like I said, in retail stores, Amazon, etc. Pretty easy to get your hands on. Also, for those of you that have slightly smaller cases or some restrictions, then this is really good. You can get this into smaller cases. Maximum height of the installed unit is around about 130, 135 millimeters. So certainly is a little bit smaller than some of those 120mm ones, which often are in the 155 to around about 170mm range. So this can fit in a lot more cases. So let's get on with the unboxing. So first of all, packaging wise, as you'd expect from Arctic, pretty decent stuff, no real wastage there, and tons of information. And also, they do highlight as well on the front there, you have got with this a 6-year warranty, which is yeah, pretty decent. Also underneath there's a QR code, so if you want to find out more you can do that. I'll put a close-up of that on the screen now so you can check it out for yourselves. And as it says on the bottom, compact, multi-compatible CPU cooler. On the side it goes into some more of the finer details, which again I'll put close-ups. And again, if you want to go to check out the instructions, how easy it is to install, then there's a QR code which I'll put on screen now so you can check that out. Also, on this side of the box we've got the pressure optimized fan, you've got the dual direct touch heat pipes. Also you've got the different mounting options, so again Intel mounting or AMD mounting, and also you've got some information about the fluid dynamic bearing, which generally makes the actual fan noise and also the motor noise a lot less intrusive. So there you've got this down from what was previously in their previous models about 0.5 zone down to 0.3 zone. So really you probably won't notice the difference, but certainly less wear, less tear, it's going to be quieter, and also it's using less electricity, which is obviously a bonus. At the very bottom, it's got some of the comparisons. So this was using a Ryzen 5 3600X overclocked to 4 GHz, and there's the results there. So against the Wraith Spire cooler, you're looking at a difference of 93 degrees on the Wraith Spire against 87 degrees C. So it certainly is an improvement over the stock cooler, definitely. The Wraith Spire isn't the best of coolers, to be honest with you, so this obviously should be better. And also it looks a little bit nicer. Moving around to this side of the box, it gives you an exploded view of the actual fan housing, the tower, and also the mountings, and goes into more technical information about the RPMs. Fan RPM wise, looking at anything between 300 and 2000 RPM, which actually for a 92mm fan is actually pretty decent. Even some of the 120s do get to those kind of revolutions. They can tend to get a little bit noisy at that upper range. It does mention on there about the fin stack, so the fin stack has 44 fins, and as we said earlier, it's got 2 direct touch heat pipes. So let's take a look inside and see what we actually get. So first up is our accessories box, and I can't imagine there being a great deal in here. So you get a thank you for purchasing Arctic leaflet with contact details, all that kind of usual stuff. Also, if you want a full diagram of how to install it, then there is a QR code you can scan there. You get the Intel ring mounting, which is pretty common. Most of us have seen that before. And also you get the Intel style push pin. So if you're installing this on the Intel setup, no problem. If you're installing on AMD, it's ready to go pretty much out of the box, as we will see now. So there is the unit itself. It actually looks pretty decent. If you're going for a kind of monochromatic build, black and white, yeah, it's going to fit in really nicely. I do like this new cowling they've put around the actual fan itself. It does kind of take something away from it, because one of the beauties of a lot of these types of coolers was the fact that you could actually change the actual fan itself. But certainly this is a pretty decent fan. You've got that cowling on there, so that is going to direct some more of the airflow around the top and actually keep it in rather than letting it fan outwards. On the top we've got the Arctic logo. Yeah, pretty nice. Relatively lightweight. I think it's about 220 odd grams. I'll put it on the screen now, the exact measurements. You do have also the Pwm Fan, which actually is quite a short cable. That's going to help for cable management, although on some boards you may find if the fan header is quite a distance away, then you might struggle, so do bear that in mind. Looking onto the bottom, you've got the heat pipes, which are exposed underneath the pre-applied MX2 compound, and there is a plastic cover on there to protect it during transit. So a nice feature of this is the fact that it's ready to go. You don't have to worry about putting paste on yourself, whether you've put too much, too little, too thin, too thick, etc. It's already done for you. And also, because an MX2 compound is actually pretty decent, you don't have to worry about it not being a premium type compound. Looking at the actual mountings, so we've got the usual kind of pressure mounting system there, and with these lugs you just put those over the existing lugs on your AM4 motherboard. So again, another benefit of this, if you're a first time builder and you're a little bit concerned about removing the backplate or putting a lot of pressure onto the stock cooler, which you get from AM4 or AMD rather, then this is really simple. Literally take your motherboard out of the box with the plastic lugs on, hook it over, tighten them up, and you're off to the races. The one thing I would possibly point out is you will need a relatively long and thin screwdriver to actually tighten this up. Because of how close that screw is to the fin stack, fatter screwdrivers may struggle, and also shorter screwdrivers, you're going to struggle to get the angle on there. So you are going to require a relatively longish screwdriver. Right, so that's all the components out of the box. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a close-up installation of this on just a random AM4 motherboard, so you can get an idea of how it goes together. Okay, so let's put the cooler onto this processor. So we've got Ryzen 3 3100 here, and we've got our Arctic Freezer 7X. So first thing I want to do is to remove the plastic cover from the bottom. So pull that off, and also it's a good idea to actually loosen off some of the tension from the spring clasp, which is just here, which if I give you a bit of a close-up. So this is the screw. Just release a bit of tension off of that. It's already actually pretty loose out of the box anyway, but it's going to loosen off a little bit further so we don't have to apply too much pressure. So unscrew that a little bit, and as you can see now it's very loose on there. You do it on both sides. When it's actually being installed, make sure that it is actually, the clasp is on the inner side. So looking at it, it will be like this rather than being outward like that. So make sure it goes in like that. So I'm going to loosen off the other one, and this part of it is actually really super simple. So all we need to do is to hook over the rear, so just let that fall over and hook over the back area, which is hard for me to see and film at the same time. And then with the other side, you can just spin it around and basically do the same on the other side. So just make sure that it is facing the right way, and it should pretty much almost fall into place. Might need a little bit of pressure. So once that's on, you can then take up some of the slack. So just give it a few screws. Again, not easy for me to see whilst I'm actually trying to film this. So get it so it's just taking up some of that slack. Make sure that it's actually firmly on that clasp, and then we can spin it around, and then we can do the same on the other side, just again taking up all that slack, and just keep on tightening up until it's fully tightened. Okay, spin around side by side. You don't necessarily have to do the screw up in its entirety. Just make sure that the pressure is pretty much even across, and if you look at the side you can see where the screws are and see actually how close the metals are where they're meeting up. I'm going to give that one a little bit more of tightness, and that is essentially it. So just make sure that the metal plates there meet up. So this one does need a little bit more. Again, if it's on the processor and it feels pretty solid, there's virtually no wiggle in it, you don't have to go crazy and over tighten it. You can just leave it as it is. As long as it feels firm and it's on there, then you're all good to go. And then what you need to do is, with your PWM connector, find your CPU fan header, which is up here at the top. Put that in place, tuck your wires out of the way, and you're ready to continue your build. So that is it. So I'm going to get on and do some testing, and we'll be back straight after that. Okay, so we're back and we've done some testing, and I did bottle out. I didn't use the PC behind me for reasons outside of my control, so I've stuck with the actual Ryzen 3 3100, which actually is a pretty decent processor to test against this kind of CPU cooler. It is within that kind of range of what you'd expect. You don't want to be spending nearly £200 on a processor and sticking a relatively cheap cooler on it. That goes without saying. So this actually, I think, does make a lot of sense. So over the stock cooler, yes, massive improvement, certainly a lot quieter, and also the temperature's been reduced by around about 10 to 15 degrees overall, especially in the high end where it really does step into its own. Something I did notice is with the highest revolutions of the fan, around about 2100 RPM, it isn't really necessary. I've run this a few times through Cinebench, and actually with the fan on full speed, the results were almost identical. The only thing difference was the temperature. So this topped out around about 55 degrees under full load with precision boost overclocking in Cinebench R23, which is pretty much where you'd expect to see it. That is it, the full revs. Actually, around about half speed, around about 1200, 1300 RPM, which is what actually it sits into nicely with the PWM range. Temperatures were reduced by about 5 degrees and it was virtually inaudible. This thing is actually super quiet. At the highest RPMs, around about 2000, 2100, you certainly do notice it. It is something you can hear. Actually, it's not that annoying a sound profile. At the 92mm size over the 120, I'm not too sure how that works out, but certainly they've tuned the blades and the actual assembly, so it doesn't make kind of a whistling noise or anything. It just, you can hear noise from the air moving and the kind of the fan spinning, but it certainly isn't distracting at all. So if you do want to, and you want to leave this on full speed all the time, then you certainly could do, although I probably wouldn't. Leave it to the PWM setting, and actually in the bars it sets up really nicely. So it maxes out at 70 degrees at the highest rev range, and somewhere between 60 and 50 is kind of like half speed. So for this particular kind of setup, it's absolutely perfect. Now obviously this is an open air test bench, so we've got no assistance from other fans or airflow or any extraction, anything like that. So this is pretty much worst case scenario, and also for the VRMs as well. And even saying that, in Cinebench we've got some really decent scores. For the multi-thread test, we're looking around about 5,900 points on Cinebench R32, which actually is pretty decent. And on CPU Monkey, the default kind of settings for this, normally you're looking around about 5,400, 5,500. So yeah, it seems to be doing well and allowing the CPU to overclock, or at least use precision boost overclocking to its advantage. One of the areas where it does suffer slightly is in the kind of the lowest RPM, so around about 500 RPM, which is what it sets to in the lowest in PWM range. In the idle state, you're looking around about 37 degrees. Now this is in a 23 degree ambient room, so it's not as good as some of them, although when we ramp that up to the full speed, we got down to 30 degrees. So again, take into consideration noise against usability. Certainly I would trade off 5 to 6, maybe 7 degrees difference to have it being effectively completely silent. So that has been the Arctic Freezer 7X. Yeah, overall, very pleased with it, and certainly gets my seal of approval. So if you want to check it out, there will be some links in the video description, and if there's any other type of CPU cooler out there that you'd like me to take a look at, then please do let us know in the comments section. But in the meantime, I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.